get in the presentation that your teams are going to have, and you will have in the business center. We have some vocabulary terms, a few, again, you'll be able to see this shortly. Our compensation plan. You're able to, you and your teams are able to make or be compensated in 5 different ways. 2 based upon your own sales, and 3 upon your team. First, you sell. There's 2 ways that you're compensated. 1, retail royalties. So depending upon where you sit in the compensation plan, what status, you earn between 25 and 30% on all of your sales. Okay? Secondly, personal sales bonus. We've added we've included a personal sales bonus for those that can sell a lot of product. It's not easy to sell. It's not easy to sell a lot of product, and so we want to reward and recognize those that can. And in our model, especially being an e-commerce based model, you will have team members that may not be able to build big teams, but will be able to sell a lot of product. That's not easy. We want to recognize them. We want to reward them. So we have an additional 5 to 10% bonus on top of that 25 to 30%. And we'll talk about those thresholds here in a moment. First level royalties. Here we get to the team compensation. First level royalties. Once you start building from the very beginning, once you start to recruit and build a team, you earn 1% on all your first level mentors. That's anyone that you personally sponsor. You earn, we get to branch royalties and generation royalties. I'd like to talk through a few terms. Team, branch, graduation, and generation. Some of you may be familiar with these terms. Some of you, these may be brand new to you. Okay? So a team is anyone on your team, on your company, anyone that you've recruited or has been recruited by them, okay, or sponsored. So a team is your entire downline, in essence. Branch is anyone on your team that has not hit Gold Elite. Okay? So everyone on your team is in your branch until someone on that team hits Gold Elite. At that point, that person graduates and becomes a generation. So let me say it one more time just so we're all on the same page. To everyone in your downline is part of your team. When someone hits Gold Elite, and everybody on your team is part of your branch until someone hits Gold Elite. When that person hits Gold Elite, what happens? They graduate and they become a generation. Okay. So your branch royalties, again, depending upon what status you are, you earn between 2 and 3% on your branch. And then the generation royalties. And this is the world that you want to live in, those generations. You earn between 1 and 7% on your generations. And we'll walk through all of these as we go. Retail royalties. We're going to walk through each of them a little more closely. Retail royalties. Can you see in the back? Not really? Slightly? Okay. These are the different levels, bronze through platinum elite. The first 2 levels, and you can see it in your chart there, and that's why we handed these out so you can make sure you can follow us closely. On the chart, you'll see retail royalties, you're 25% with bronze and bronze elite, but once you hit silver, you earn 30%. Anything above silver. So that's the retail royalties. Personal sales bonus. You earn, this is the bonus again for the high achievers, those that can sell a lot of product. Our products and our plan is based on a point system. And it's based on the US dollar. We had to pick a currency on which to base the system. No comment. No comment. No, so it's based on, so regardless of what, in essence, regardless of where your customer sits and where they purchase, every product is based on a point, okay? And the point is currently tied to the US dollar. So take the mascara, let's say it costs, I know it's a different price, but $25, okay? Regardless of where you sell that mascara, whether in UK, the US, Canada, France, wherever, as we grow internationally, you'll always earn 25 points or whatever that point value is for that product. Once you sell 1,000 points worth of product, that's the first threshold for that 5% bonus. You sell over 1,000 points, you get an additional 5% on your commissions for that one. Once you sell more than 1,500 points worth of product, you earn an additional 7%. And if you or your team members sell 2,500 points worth within a certain current month, there's any given month, you earn an additional 10% on top of the retail royalties. Yes?
But you just said you want to take.
No, sorry. Yeah. This is still personal. This is still self. So if your team member sells it, then thank you for that. Any questions on the personal sales bonus? Okay. Now let's get to the team bonuses. First level royalties. Again, this is your first line. 1% on those first line royalties. Really pretty easy to understand. Second, branch royalties. Again, branch is everyone on your team that does not get gold elite. All right. And here's a little demonstration of a team that you may start to build. Assuming that none of those individuals, including not just the individuals you personally sponsor, but this group down here, once they hit, if no one has hit gold elite, they're all part of your branch. You earn between 2 and 3% on those branch royalties. Third generation royalties. Once Maelle here, and once she hits gold elite, she graduates. She becomes a generation, right? And so you earn between 1 and 7% on those generations. So let's move to the big chart that we have. At the top here, you'll see these are the requirements. You have, if there's a number there, that means that's a box you have to check off before you, on each status before you can move on to the next status level. At the top, you have the personal retail points. Those are the points that you personally must sell in any given month. Team volume. All right, team volume is a combination of 3 things: your own personal retail points, your team retail points, and your personal sponsorship points. Okay. So, what is personal sponsorship? You receive, in essence, 89 points. That's what the value, the point value for sponsoring someone. Anytime you sponsor someone that goes active, that first month that they go active, you earn that personal sponsorship points. Does that make sense? So, let me personal sponsorship points. Anytime that you, the first month that anyone that you sponsor goes active, you earn 89 points towards your team volume. Okay? So if I sponsor you and you go active this month, 89 points goes towards your team volume. In addition, and again, this is the combination of 3 things: your own personal retail points, your team retail points, and that personal sponsorship points. Okay? If I sponsor you, but you don't go active this month, I don't get the 89 points. Right? You actually have to go active. And how do you go active? You become bronze. Right? Sell 50 points worth. That's how you go active.
So they don't go active for buying the original kit, post-production experience sponsor.
That's it. Yeah.
So we actually have to buy something outside of the kit to go active.
To go active.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of kicks off. And we're not going to reward for just sponsoring people, because then people will just go out and people who throws in just to drive up points. No, it all comes back to selling product. Right? All right, so that's team volume. Qualified first level mentors, that's in essence someone hitting bronze in a given month. So selling $50 worth or 50 points worth of product in a given month. That's how many mentors that you need on your first line, on your personal sponsor. Branch volume is similar to team volume, except we're just talking about the branch. Branch volume is your own personal retail points, your branch retail points instead of team, just the branch, and personal sponsorship points. Those three count towards your branch line. And then finally, first generations. The number of first generations that you have within your organization. Let me explain first generations just to make sure that we're all on the same page. I'm going to go back to this chart here. So let's say we're brand new here, you have your brand new team, no one has hit Gold Elite, so they're all part of your team and branch, right? Now let's say Rose here, down here on the bottom. Rose is the first one in the organization that hits Gold Elite. She becomes your first generation, your first generation, okay? Sophia, she's still getting going, right? What happens to her? She's part of what? Your branch, right? Well, if the next month, Sophia gets going and starts producing more than she was in the past, all of a sudden she hits Gold Elite. She becomes what? Which generation?
Second.
First generation. You said first generation because she's closest to you. So what does Rose become? Second generation. Okay. Now what happens over here at Bella? The next month gets Gold Elite. What does she become? Your first generation. But so is Sophia, right? So now you have two first generations. Right? So yes. So now you're able to what? Yep. So let's say Bella didn't hit. Let's say all three of these hit hit Gold Elite, but Bella didn't. And you would then have 1, 2, 3, 4 first generations. Does that make sense?
And then when Bella hits.
And then if Bella hits first generation, no, what happens? You have 2 first generations and 3 second. Well, if Rose is still second generation, you would have 4 second generations.
Yeah.
So what happens? You can see as your organizations get larger, right, and become more mature, you will have less first generations than second, third, fourth generations, right? Because you only have 1 first generation in this branch. You may have 10 second generations and 30 third generations as those teams mature.
Well, we have a little chart that says what we need next. So as we're going along, it'll say, right, in the next track you need this.
We will. The development team is working towards that. It may not be available right when we launch, but we'll definitely have cues to be able to help you. But in your business center, you will see all along how close you are, where you are, to be able to help you, be able to know how close you are to making that next advancement.
Can I ask a quick question? Does that apply to an activity month? As in, the one on the right could be my first generation this month, but she doesn't hit it the following month in her pay scale. So could those first and second generations fluctuate? Yeah.
Fluctuate.
Okay.
And they fluctuate because every month it starts over again.
Okay.
Right? Every month again, you start fresh and you start building, right?
Yeah.
The reality is, every month it becomes easier to get because your teams get larger. You have a larger customer base to be able to sell to, and these levels become easier to progress through.
Okay.
And you'll hit it earlier in the month as you move forward.
Mm.
There's a question.
Will it be a calendar month or will
It's a
it?
calendar month. Yes. All right, a couple things that I want to point out. So those are the requirements up here. And you see the first generations, 1, 2, 3, 4 first generations throughout the compensation model. Below are the earnings potential. That's what we talked about earlier on. The retail royalties, the 25 to 30% that you earn on your own personal sales. That 5 to 10% personal sales bonus is that next line. First level royalties, that's the 1% throughout. Branch royalties grows from 2 to 3%. And then you hit the generations. First, second, third. And what you'll see here, which we didn't have on the page, which hopefully you'll appreciate, is that we added, in essence, one more bite of the apple, that 4th generation. And you'll see that it's 1 point. But I promise you, as your teams mature, that one point would become the most valuable point in the compensation plan over any other point because it's so wide. Because you, like we saw, that first and second generation, and now you're talking about 4 generations, which is very wide. The other thing that I want to point out is the transition when you start to receive the goal or are available or able to receive or earn that Generation 1 loyalty. The transition from gold to gold elite. You'll see that your branch at that point is 3%. But as you move as someone graduates and moves to a first generation, then you pay less or more.
No.
You pay more. You pay more. When someone goes from being in your branch and they graduate and become a first generation, you're actually earning 4% on that first generation. And why? It's important. I was just talking, who was I talking to about this before and during the break? Yeah, you're helping. It's got a couple things. During the life cycle of a mentor, early on, it may be learning just how does the business work, how do you sell, how do you recruit, how do you sponsor, right? And then it moves into how do you be a leader, right? And how do you be a leader of leaders? And you as their leader, they need support, they need help. And if at this point where typically maybe a manager level, if all of a sudden we end up, because someone graduated, we compensate you less, and all of a sudden that takes away, there's no alignment of interest, right? Of goals. We want you to be supporting that individual and continue to support them, especially when they become managers. At that point, if they get lonely, they're going to need more help than ever. And you're going to have to provide more help than ever, right? And we want you to do that. We want you to help support them and help grow their teams. Because at that point, from a financial perspective, they're making more money, right? And doing better financially speaking. You should as well. And so we've aligned those incentives so that as those groups, as those generations grow, you end up growing the return on those groups grows as well. So hopefully you see that we're aligning incentives for you and your teams so that you don't have that debate, oh, I want to help her, but if she graduates, then all of a sudden I make less money, personally. Now by aligning that, all of a sudden if she graduates, she wins, you win, the company wins, everybody wins, and then we're able to continue growing. So those are the key things that I wanted to bring to mention in the compensation plan. I know that we are short of time, but I would love to answer any questions now. If you have any big questions. Yes.
Hiya. On the